So this is what is left of one of my projects that I did a long time ago, and apparently I didn't give a fuck about. That's why it all is kind of nasty looking and broken and dirty and scuffed and all. It is an electrostatic speaker, but maybe I should start where it started off. I wanted to make a stacked electrostatic speaker to increase the efficiency, not the maximum output, efficiency, so it can be a rather small driver you can mate with, for instance, a 10-inch or 12-inch driver in an open baffle. I thought that would be really awesome. So I started off, let's move this in this direction. I started off with this actually. That was my first try. And don't need that one or these. Oh, this one looks pretty much okay. So these are the stators. And I can see that these were ones that had a membrane on it, but not right now. So I created a few of these. A few rings, another, well, even more rings. And what I did was, I had a stator, just like a normal loudspeaker. Oh, the foil is even on there. And it has a foil here. And I believe this is 3 micron or something. But there is a foil on it. So this is just like a normal, typically loudspeaker. Then I attached this ring to be able to connect the bias to the foil. So I added it like this. And then we took another stator, just like a normal loudspeaker. Let's see if I can find one. This one, for instance, this one has no foil. And put it on there. So now we got a normal tweeter. But it's rather tiny for an ESL. It would be nice for headphones, but not for like a loudspeaker. So what I did was this. What if I used this back stator as a front stator for a neck stack? Now there's one thing, this copper is on the outside. So I have to add a ring to at least have the copper be the same distance as it is for the first panel. So I have to add another ring actually to make it completely equal. So I do another ring, but this time with the connection for the bias. One moment. So kind of interrupted. So I add another ring and it has the connection point for the bias voltage for the membrane as well, but I'll put it like this, but the connection is on the other side compared to this one, so we know which one is which. This is important. So now if we put on a membrane on here, it has the same distance from the copper compared to the first stack. So we add one with a membrane and we put it like, well, that was kind of a design failure. I should have shifted these connection points a little bit, but anyhow, you attach that here. So now we got a stack of 2. We got 2 membranes, 2 bias connections here and here, and 3 stators. So we connect the stators as we normally would to a transformer. But the bias is different. That's where the magic happens. Well, not really, but you connect one of the membranes to the minus bias and one to the positive bias. Now what's happening is, because, let me break it down. Let's say the first stator has a positive signal, or it goes into positive, like in a sine wave. Then this foil moves, if it's negative, negatively charged, move towards this stator, to the front. That's okay. This back stator is pushing that stator towards the front. Now if we add another membrane with all these rings and such, but I don't really care, but if we added another membrane, it will move in the opposite direction if we use the same bias voltage. But if we invert the bias voltage from negative to positive, it moves also to the front, so in tandem with the first membrane. And so forth. So that's the reason why you can use 3 stators with 2 membranes. So it saves you on one stator, it costs you an extra bias voltage, but most importantly, by doubling this membrane, the output goes up by 6 dB, which is quite a lot. That is the same amount as using a step-up ratio that is twice as high. And many people know how hard or difficult it is to find a good transformer that has a really high ratio, especially in the upper range. So, this was my solution to make a small thing play loud. Not louder in the end of maximum volume, I mean the excursion is still the same. So the sensitivity goes up for the amount of panel we have and the ratio on the transformer. So, and as you can see, I made lots more. First I thought that this one needed to be in between the yeah, I should have showed you that one as well. So if you got the front stator, we add this blank ring, then we add the foil and another stator. Now this copper is on the outside if you compare it to the foil that's on here. So I thought, to make all things equal, we need again this kind of grid pattern to make it equal in every stack. But actually it just creates more crappy distortion or whatever stuff that I don't need, compared to just put another ring in there instead of these blanks. Well, that's a kind of maybe hard story. These look quite okay still. Also, it's segmented as well, so it has an inner thing and an outer ring. And the idea here was that this inner thing was doing full range, and this outer ring only up till, for instance, 15K or something, I don't know. But to increase dispersion again, this was based on a big tweeter, and I wanted to have the same dispersion as a big tweeter. Well, what is it? 1-inch tweeter? Yeah, I think so. So a rather big dome tweeter, but be a electrostatic speaker instead of a dome. And I've never seen any electrostatic speaker that is like this. If you look at the the portion on the quad that does the high frequencies, that's like it doesn't even fit in my frame here. So yeah, that's where it all began. In stacked ESL land. And let me know, please let me know if someone is really interested to maybe make a video about it again. Whatever, by the way, I will make a video about it in the future, because it still interests me a lot. The whole concept. The only thing I don't like is getting transformers, and I have a hard time getting proper cheap transformers, as always. Cheap. I don't have money to spend on very expensive transformers. So I made like 4 stacks or 5 stacks. A 4 stack adds 12 dB. Every doubling of membrane of surface area gives you 6 dB, sorry. So from 1 to 2 is 6, from 2 to 4 is 12. That's a lot of transformer stuff you need if you would want to reach that. This is a variant of that, because these membranes behind each other has limitations, and it's all depending on the highest frequency you want to produce. because if the membranes are further apart than half a wavelength of the frequency you want to produce, it's out of phase. So for instance 20K, it's a full wavelength is 1.7 centimeters. So 8.5 millimeter is a half wavelength. If the membranes were 8.5 millimeter apart or more, you will get like a dip at 20K. Not cool. It doesn't add up anymore. So thin stator material is essential. It's needed because otherwise these spacings from membrane to membrane becomes bigger and bigger. And that's why I tried this variant. It has still a half millimeter spacings in between, but if I have one left, no, they're all fucked. That's stupid. Oh well, here's one. But the stator itself is sort of a mesh fabric. And you could use mesh, but the thing about this fabric, what makes it so cool, and also not ideal, is, as you can see through it almost, but can you see the pattern? This fabric, you can, well, I could print this pattern on there and just etch it real quick, and now I have conductive traces here. The same as I had with these. So again, I could make here like a tiny dome-like shaped tweeter that does high frequencies and low, and then this ring that only does low, for instance. Low, I mean, it remains a tweeter. It's not really low, but it's just to have better dispersion. That's all. So yeah, that's kind of, this stuff is really cool. I got some, this is also this kind of stuff, but thinner even. This one is too expensive and well, just too thin actually. I bought this once and I keep it because you never know, but so also conductive material, rather conductive as well. Got also a copper variant, but that was a little bit too thick, but it does damps really well. And this is the actual stuff that it's on there right now. So it looks almost like a mesh, but it is actually polyester fabric with copper and I don't know, zinc or something. I don't know actually. Pretty expensive, but if you would be interested, I happen to have a lot of it. And this is another variant, but then bigger, as you can see. It works as on the same principle as this one, except uses a lot of tiny holes, as you can see, and it has more segments. I think this one was actually the best playing one, to be honest. And well, this one as well, but only tweeter duty. Like instead of a dome tweeter, for instance, it could work. But I would always want to get lower. This one could reach down to 800, I believe, up till whatever. I even made it to one of these 12-inch woofers, or yeah. So that plays. It's somewhere on my channel, but it's the same story, same principle. So yeah, oh yeah, you can make this as well with the panels I have for sale, of which I don't know what they should cost. But of course you can put them behind each other as well if you want. I mean, you can, if you really want to. But I think for ease of construction, just use them as a line array, because it will result in the same thing. Yeah, but easier. This is only interesting if you want to have a really small panel. That's it for now. And also, please do subscribe. I only need 36 members, so even if you're not interested, just subscribe, you know. Just don't ring the bell, that's okay with me. And then I'm a happy camper.